I called my former boss because I was ready to quit.
I hear you.
Let's be honest, right? I did that because I was like, you know what? I'm not
This is
doing
not going to work
This
out.
is not going to work out.
Yes, I hear
was
you.
ready to give up.
Yeah.
Wake up at like 5 every morning, even though technically the working doesn't start till 9. I'll wake up at 5. So I have 4 hours of me doing research about what I need to do that day. Because I've sort of like came up with a culture of education,
Yes.
focus on your books.
Yeah.
That was my focus as well when I was in Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And a guy from, I think it was from Google, who came, he was a special guest, and he said something which I've held on to, and I repeat this pretty much on a monthly basis to anyone that listens, which is the best way to fast track in life is to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Same way, my mom inspired me to, be as tenacious and as hardworking as I am.
Yes.
I'd like to think that my career path is able to inspire other people from less fortunate backgrounds. The terminology in EY is diversity, equality, and inclusivity.
Yes, guys, welcome to another episode of Let Inspiration Take Over podcast. Yes, you guessed it. Today I have another very special guest on the podcast, a good friend of mine that I've known for a very long time. I'm so grateful that he's here. I am so happy that he's come to see us to visit the LiT Studios today because he took a trip. Once again, as you guys will tell, I always have very busy people on the podcast, and even now he's got something to do. So we'll keep this, short and concise. But I'm so grateful, man. Everything that is being bred by this podcast. But yes, so not to digress. Today we've got John Atafo, who is a director at Ernst Young. Part of the Big Five, as they're called, right?
Yeah, the Big Four.
Was it the Big Four? Big Four. Yeah, I need to correct that. Big Four. But when I was looking at that list, it was showing up as number 1. It was like whoever put the list. I don't know if it's actually number 1, but it was at the very top of the list.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how they cut the data. So in terms of professional services, we're technically number 3 or 4.
Okay.
So we have PwC, Deloitte, EY, and then KPMG.
Brilliant. Yeah, they're the ones that I was sort of looking at. Brother, as we start, generally, I like to dig into background and that sort of thing, but I'll start at a different point. There was, because obviously as I do, I'll normally ask for somebody to send me a bio. As I was reading your bio, there was something very interesting that I came across. So I'll read that through just to ask you a little bit about that. It's in relation to the work that you're doing at the moment. But before we do that, perhaps give us a brief introduction, of yourself and what you do, just in a few seconds.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here.
That's welcome.
As Makuza said, my name is John Atafo. I was actually born in Nigeria. I moved to the UK back in 2001 with my mum. We lived in Sheffield. So essentially, my education was cut short because an opportunity came up for my mum to work in the UK, which was a great opportunity, and she wanted to do it. So I came over with her. Joined high school midway through at Notre Dame in Sheffield, and I pretty much spent most of my childhood living in Sheffield, and then went to uni in Sheffield as well. And then after that, I was able to move to London to work for a company called GlaxoSmithKline, and that was sort of like my first venture.
GSK,
absolutely into that. But obviously, leaving Nigeria, I left my sisters and my brother behind. So I'm one of 6. I'm the youngest of 6.
Wow.
I've got 4 elder sisters and an elder brother, but only I moved with my mum to the UK.
Exactly.
As you can imagine, as a young child, it's quite complicated to,
right,
to grow up without your siblings, which obviously I had to do. So, and I kind of always look at that as a important moment in my life because, you're kind of forced to grow up very, very quickly. Because I guess you could argue your upbringing is somewhat pivoted a little bit. Of course, I love my family, love my siblings, and of course didn't get to see them as much. You just have to mature yourself a little quicker in life.
Yeah, I'll say this to you, brother. And I love that it's going into it, because it's like that's what we're going to jump into. It's amazing because I feel like today in this podcast is going to be a lot of dispelling of myths, right? The fact that you were last born, I was like, what? This guy is mature. You give me like kind of firstborn vibes. So the fact that I discovered that, I was like, wow, bruh. So no excuses, right? Because even the fact that you came here and it was just you, your siblings were back home. I was telling you, your story is not too dissimilar to mine, because we came here, my mum nurse also came in 2002 as opposed to yourself 2001. We left our brother back home, but I had my sister, you know, to look up to and that sort of thing. So I was like, man, his journey is not too different from my own and that sort of thing. But normally you hear about if somebody's a last born, well, that's the reason why they haven't gotten certain things done, or that's why they have. But I don't think that's the case for you at all. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, and I completely agree. I feel like we all have to create our own path.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of incredible, inspirational people around me. You know, my mom was one of them. You know, seeing how tenacious she was, how hard she worked. The amount of effort she had to go through just to provide for, you know, for the rest of the family. That was inspirational.
Wow. Yes.
And if I look at my siblings as well, you know, they've all had different stories, and you know, they've had to work extremely hard at it to achieve everything they are today. So if anything, I feel like as a last born, I had the opportunity to learn from the other five.
Did you?
I had the opportunity.
Wow, and you actually learned.
You know, absolutely, because you kind of look at what they've done, and you're thinking, right, I want to do that and do more of it because that has worked and that looks good.
Absolutely.
Or actually, I don't want to do that because you tried it and you know, you weren't so successful, so I'm not going to go down that path. So
there you go.
I feel like, you know, I just felt like I was a sponge growing up. So even though I wasn't in the same country as them, you know, I spoke to them often, and you hear the stories. So it just meant you could just kind of shape your own path.
Brilliant.
By learning from other people's experiences. Yeah. So to your point, we really don't have any excuses.
Absolutely. And I heard you say earlier, I was like, what? I was, you know, doing a comparison to yourself. I was like, fam, you know, just a lot of things that you've mentioned, a lot of things that we'll be discussing about your journey is not too dissimilar, but there obviously points a difference. Yeah. Whether, as I say, this is God's gift of yourself, whether it's the fact that you're just focusing, you have your mind on one thing somewhere there got you to where you are, which means that, you know, other people that might have come through the same way you did, I consider ourselves, we're third culture children, aren't we? Raised in Africa, grew up here, grew up similar environment in Sheffield, used to go to the same places. I was telling you about some of the antics we got up to and all that good stuff. But then look at where you are now and look at what you're doing. So I think that's a great point of inspiration. Speaking of which, we'll come back to the background because I really want to dig a little bit deep into that, just so we get to learn a little bit more about yourself. But before we do that, there's a statement that I was reading, right, of what you're doing at the moment, and I thought to perhaps touch on that first before we dig into the background, which goes, I'm responsible for leading EY teams globally, being an internal ambassador, driving our diversity, equality and inclusivity agenda. So I think that those are the bits that got me. I was like, man, that's a huge responsibility, you know, working with different clients all around the world to solve complex technology questions that are impacting their businesses and partnering with them on a variety of transaction led events. So basically, as I said, it's the diversity and inclusivity bit and saying you're responsible for that. Could you perhaps just tell us a little bit about that and, you know, what kind of responsibility it takes to have that role?
Absolutely. I think one of the reasons I joined EY from GSK was, of course, I was excited about the type of work, but more importantly, was all the good stuff I heard about the culture, and the environment and the place to work. And I joined as a senior consultant, and I've obviously worked my way up to where I am today. Yes. And I think what has been consistent throughout and what made me stay was the fact that they really focus on the people. And, you know, they have, and, you know, the terminology in EY is, you know, diversity, equality, and inclusivity. So we have a whole agenda around it where, you know, we're really thinking through how do we make sure we have an equitable leadership? So how do we make sure we have a diverse teams? How do we make sure we're tapping into the best talent, irrespective of age, race, gender, all that stuff, right? That's brilliant. So obviously I have seen that throughout my career in EY, and obviously as a director, as a Black director, you know, in the team that I work in, which I can assure you there isn't enough Black directors yet, but of course this is something that we're working on. But you know, I'd like to think of myself as, you know, an inspiration.
There you go.
So the same way, you know, my mom inspired me to, you know, be as tenacious and as hardworking as I am.
Yes.
I'd like to think that my career path is able to inspire
Other
people from, you know, less fortunate backgrounds, or you know, Black people or people of ethnic minority. I want them to be able to look at my story and think, well, if John could do it, you know, so can I. So I'd like to be an ambassador for change, because I'm working in an organization that have already got the infrastructure and the platform to enable this.
Absolutely.
So all I have to do is really just, you know, be a spokesman, be an ambassador, and just help drive that change.
Absolutely. So well put, brother. It's like when you were putting that statement together, I swear you were looking at me when I was doing my notes last night, right? Because that's exactly what I said. I genuinely believe that your story is going to go towards inspiring a lot of people, a lot of third culture kids as well coming up, the ones that come from different backgrounds and that sort of thing, your journey. And literally the way you articulated it was my mind process behind putting this together. And as I was thinking up of questions and how to address them, I thought we need to do a service and to do a justice to the story. Speaking of which, the point where I wanted to start with, which you've touched on briefly, which is great, but it's upbringing, but more so from the side of, if you could tell us a little bit about growing up in Nigeria, you know, in a household, as you said, with 4 sisters, 1 brother. I can only imagine what that must have been like having that female influence, having elder sisters. Like I've got an older brother, but I don't have an older sister. What was that like? And also perhaps, you know, in your household, was there like creativity? Were there certain things that you feel have kind of added to who you are now? So I only ever mention that point as it relates to what you're doing now, the work that you're doing, and that sort of thing. Yeah,
absolutely. It's interesting. I don't actually remember a lot from
really.
my childhood. Because I mean, I moved when I was really, really young.
Yes.
And you know what I do remember, it was definitely a busy household. You know, technically 8 people, and
there you go.
You know, the age difference between my elder sisters and myself is 11 years.
Wow.
So you can imagine, like at a point in time when I was old enough to know, you know, my left from my right, they were already at that age where they were probably in high school, and stuff like that. So they were in a very, very different place in their lives to me, who I was just probably focused on just having a good time, playing around in the bushes and doing what kids in Africa do, which is run around with sticks and, you know, just cause cause chaos on the street. So the one thing I have been all through my life is just a sponge.
There you go.
So I observed a lot, and I'd like to think that I emulate a lot of the good stuff that I've seen around me, whether it's from my parents or from my siblings. But I think the one thing, you know, to your point around, you know, growing up with 4 sisters and technically 5 women if you include my mom.
I didn't even think about that part.
Yeah, exactly. You just learn how to be kind.
Oh right,
and you learn a lot of empathy and understanding, because let's face it, you know, women are way better at men at a lot of different things, and it's very, very important to acknowledge it, but also you know, learn from it. And I've never been one to be ashamed of learning from anyone who has the ability to teach me something I don't already know.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a man or a woman or even someone younger than me or older than me. I just love to be a sponge, and that has also contributed to how I got to where I am today. Just not being afraid to either ask for help or learn from people around me, and be you know, proud enough to say, you know, actually I don't know that. So you know, how can
there's nothing wrong with not knowing. Yeah, I mean, even as I'm growing this platform, that's one of the things. Even at the inception, I say, do you know what? I will make mistakes. I'll get some things wrong, but I want to constantly evolve and constantly improve. It's not good enough to say, okay, yes, I'm going to get things wrong, and you're not doing anything to get better. Then that's not acceptable.
Absolutely, and I think that is probably the biggest positive I see in my life, which is I'm never satisfied.
Wow.
I'm always
hungry for more.
Exactly. I'm always hungry for more, wondering what the next thing is. I'm always trying to learn.
That's brilliant, bro.
I don't think I'm perfect. I don't think I will ever stop learning. But I think having that hunger and having that appetite to always want to learn something or try something different, it just makes you a better person.
Absolutely.
And I think that's
agree.
very, very important.
Yes. I mean, you know, speaking to your childhood again, did you find that you were into any extracurricular activities or things like that? Or did you have some interests as a kid? I know you just said, oh, playing with sticks and things like that. Yeah.
Not really.
Okay.
I think, I mean, I was pretty much just focused on education. I think, you know, growing up, as you know, Nigeria is a third world country.
Yes.
And, you know, we weren't the wealthiest of them all. So I think the focus was on really the basics to help you get through day by day, which is focus on your education. Let's get food on the table. Let's all help each other and support each other. And to be honest, that was okay for me. I was a happy child.
Yeah.
And obviously when I moved to the UK, it was a different type of experience.
There you go.
As you can probably testify to,
Yes.
you know, living in Africa versus living in the UK are two
Completely
very, very different experiences.
The culture shock. Yeah.
Exactly. But I thoroughly enjoyed, you know, the first few years that I spent in Nigeria. But I would say my focus was really on my education and just making sure that, you know, I could be the best human I could be at the time.
That's brilliant. Speaking of which, it's interesting because you've segued into exactly what I was going to ask you, which is what was the experience? I'll break it down in two parts. What was the experience? And I know you touched on it slightly earlier, but what was the experience of you living Nigeria? So that moment when, you know, mom's like, you're leaving, you know, your siblings are going to be back home and that sort of thing. You're coming to a new land. So I want to hear a little bit about that and what you were feeling in that moment, but then also your initial experience of being in the UK, because I know you said you went to high school here in the UK, which I did too. My experience is another story. So yeah, perhaps, if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's interesting because it didn't really resonate to me what was going on. So obviously when I found out I was coming to the UK and I was going to live here, exactly, that was my reaction. Like, okay, cool. Like,
life is about to shift in a big way.
because I was so young and all I could think about was, you know, I love my mom, so wherever she is, that's where I want to be.
That's where I'm going to go.
So
exactly.
if she's going to Sheffield, then I'm going to go to Sheffield and that's it.
Yeah.
But it didn't quite resonate that actually I'm, you know, leaving my friends behind,
your life,
leaving my life behind, leaving my family behind, you know, dropping out of, you know, boarding school in Nigeria to start a new school. None of that really resonated with me, to be honest. And I think even when I arrived in the UK, it still didn't resonate. So I was just happy that I was going to be where my mom was.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the first time it really resonated with me, and I had that
aha moment. Yeah.
Was my first day at Notre Dame.
Okay.
When
let's hear that story.
You know, when I had to, like, you know, wear a brand new uniform. And yeah, I just turned up outside.
You're the new kid
on the block. Turned up outside the school.
Yes.
You know, I don't think there were a lot of black people.
No.
In at Notre Dame at the time. I mean, there were, but it's like, it's different when you go into boarding school in Nigeria, where you walk in and
people you've grown up
with, versus you go to a new environment and everybody knows each other. But
they've grown up together. That's what I was going to say. What year was it that you got there?
So 2001.
Okay.
2001.
Yeah.
Because when I moved, I went straight into school. I think I came in like August, and then by September I was in school.
What I mean is, like, how long did you spend in high school whilst here?
4 years.
Okay.
4 years.
Right. Yeah.
So that was when it really resonated with me that, oh wow, like this is a start
serious
of
business.
A new life.
Yes.
And yeah, it just felt strange because then I started to notice the little things, like when I'd go home, right, my siblings are not here, it's just me and my mom. When my mom is working, I'm at home alone. I have to make new friends. I have to figure it out. And as you know, in the UK, the culture is a little bit more independent than in Nigeria or everywhere else in Africa, where there's always family members that are just either next door or close by.
Go to auntie's house, cousins and things like that. Yeah.
Whereas in the UK, everyone is busy, everyone is working, and everyone is doing their own thing. So you really do have to figure it all out yourself.
Yes.
So yeah, that was when it started to dawn on me that, okay, so this is different, right? Need to adapt, need to change, and so on.
Yeah.
But again, I've enjoyed every moment of it because, like I said, the independence helped me mature a lot quicker because, to your point, I had to figure out a lot of things on my own very quickly.
There you go.
Right. And then even the experience of like being the newest kid on the block, everybody knowing each other
school.
because they've come through life together, right? So you're the one that's, you're going to have to introduce yourself to everyone. You're going to have to figure out which people or which groups of people
You
are
can click
your
with.
people that you can
Yes.
click with, that could potentially be your friendship group. You have to potentially learn things all over again. Like, because what I found was when I came into high school in at Notre Dame in Sheffield,
Compared to boarding school in Nigeria,
very, very different.
night and day.
Exactly. And a lot of the things I was learning in Notre Dame, I had already learned in Nigeria. So I felt like
ahead.
I was way ahead.
Exactly.
Which didn't really
Help.
help me make friends, because I was always like coming up with like super high grades and stuff.
The smartest kid, so they'll just
And I was being
you think you're too smart, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But because I've sort of like came up with a culture of education,
Yes.
focus on your books.
Yeah.
That was my focus as well when I was in Notre Dame. So the
brilliant.
whole social side to it.
Yes.
That when I saw people like, oh, you're gonna come to mine after school, or we're going to the mall, we're gonna go to the arcade. I didn't really do any of that stuff. At least not for the first couple of years, because I was like, what is this? I just want to go to school, study, get the highest grades, go home, eat, watch TV, and repeat. Right.
Wow.
So it took me like
different.
a good solid year.
Yes.
Before I could like allow myself to recognize that actually, different place where it's culturally acceptable to socialize, and actually that's how you make friends, and that is how you build your network and all of that. So
Absolutely.
it was I had to learn and adapt very quickly.
Yes.
Else,
yeah, there's something that you touched on there that is so profound, as we're speaking this conversation, where you said that you had to introduce yourself. I never looked at it that way. And I think I never did that. I just thought I've come to this new land, and, I was kind of an introvert, like a recluse in some way, because I was thinking, oh, these guys are together and that sort of thing. I'm just thinking, oh man, I didn't understand, as well as you're saying, the impact that it had on me to having been uprooted from my friends. And because it had happened twice. I used to live in the city, then I was taken to boarding school as well, which was an uprooting. So I've left the city, taken to boarding school in the village, right? And then from there taken to England again. So twice over. So it's kind of like I was processing it, but at the time I didn't even understand that I was going through something. So the introduction part, I never actually got to do that.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? So those people must have thought I was rude, but I just blamed them. I was like, man, these people are just not nice. But then no, I actually didn't think it was of importance to introduce. But from what you're saying, it absolutely was. Who are you? You've just come from wherever you've come from, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at sort of like just how things were, like, on the playground, right?
Yes.
People would naturally gravitate towards the friendship group during the break time or lunchtime, right?
Exactly.
So me as a guy, first day at Notre Dame, I walk in, there were no like single kids on their own. They were all in groups of 4s and 5s, right? So essentially you're trying to, what's the right word? You're trying to integrate yourself into one of the groups, right?
Yes, exactly.
So I had two options. I could either just, grab my lunch, stand there and be
the loner
and wait for somebody to like come say hello, which let's face it, kids are kids. They want to do one of two things during their lunchtime. They want to eat and they want to play. Like they don't have the same level of self-awareness as adults do. Like if I'm now at in a meeting, in a big meeting in EY, and I see someone that is not participating, I have the ability to bring them into the conversation, right?
So God was doing a work in you. There you go, bro. I say nothing happens for no reason,
exactly.
Bro.
But that level of self-awareness, we don't have them as kids, right?
No.
So I knew that if I was going to wait for someone to, and again, they weren't doing it out of malice, right? It was just, we're kids.
They're kids.
Right? We're just young kids that all we want to do is to eat and play and repeat, right?
Just to add, sorry, not to even interrupt you, some of them came from situations that weren't the best, bro.
Exactly.
Right? So they were going through issues. So certain, they'll project on you, you're thinking it's them, and it's not even them. But carry on. Sorry,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I knew I had to make the move. And don't get me wrong, some of them were awkward.
Rude.
Some of them were rude.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think there was any malicious intent. It's just kids being kids.
Wow.
And some of them were friendly. And, I formed a friendship group off the back of that. And again, that just helped change the course of my high school experience.
Yes.
It's one of the reasons I actually stayed in Sheffield. I mean, of course, I wanted to be closer to my mom. I went to college in Sheffield as well. I went to uni in Sheffield.
Yes.
But I formed such a good friendship group that took me all the way from high school through to uni.
To university.
And I thought, well, actually, this is working for me. This is making me happy. So why am I going to leave?
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I graduated and got a job in London, I thought, okay, right now it's time to take the next step.
Yeah.
Which is to, move to a bigger city, get a bigger job and see what
go
happens.
on. Brother, there's something that you've said there which you've almost come off like as a therapist to me. Like, there's a part of me that you're speaking to that's making me look at things differently. Do you know when you've held on to things for a long time, you're like, I remember those days in school. And you've just said something to me that's just like given me a completely different perspective. I'm like, bro, I never looked at it from that side of the coin. Do you get what I mean? And then now my mind is open and it's almost like healing is happening to be like, do you know what? You had a portion, you had a part. You could have actually had that attitude and that mind to be like, try. And I wasn't trying like that. I was just like, yeah, I'm not, you can't do that when you've come into somebody else's house, bro.
Exactly.
You have to humble yourself.
Exactly.
And when I think back to it, was I humble? No, I was in my feelings. And when you're in your feelings, it's always somebody else's fault. Do you get what I mean? But then now when I look back, I was like, no, do you know what? There's actually better that I could have done to, to alleviate or to make the situation better, to understand what it was. But I feel like I didn't have that understanding. I feel like the couple of statements that you made before, other people, hopefully they'll be able to listen to that. And I feel like it will give them the same healing that it's given me to see, okay, do you know what? If I look at this differently, did I add to that and that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think there's two sides to the coin. I think you touched on one of them, which is the humility part. But actually the reverse of that is just being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like in certain occasions, people don't do what they don't want to do because they feel uncomfortable about it. So
absolutely.
Humility is one of them. But at least for me, on a lot of occasions, I avoid certain situations because it makes me feel uncomfortable. And it's one of the things I've had to learn as I've sort of like worked my way through the ranks in EY because, I'm now a public face.
Bigger. Yes.
Right. Within EY, I go out all around the world to speak with a lot of our clients.
Brilliant.
I represent EY in those conversations.
Yes.
And the clients look to me to give them advice and to help steer them to the right direction. So
yes.
Even though some of them make me uncomfortable, some of the conversations make me uncomfortable.
I was find a way to navigate through them.
Absolutely. And I was at a conference once.
Yeah.
And a guy I think it was from Google who came, he was a special guest and he said something which I've held on to. And I repeat this pretty much on a monthly basis to anyone that listens, which is the best way to fast track your life is to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Right.
That's a quotable right there.
Exactly. it's
gonna make it in the trailers.
A stolen quote. But like,
that's fine. Yeah.
Like, just you gotta get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like,
absolutely.
Because if you don't, you're gonna miss out on things.
Never
you're gonna
move.
stop yourself from doing things, and you're not gonna move forward.
Yes.
So now I go into a situation and I just think I might be uncomfortable, but actually,
so what?
It's okay.
Absolutely.
Like when you invited me to do the podcast, I was thinking, wow. Do I really want to do this? Do I want to be on camera? Do I like the sound of my voice? This is going to be very uncomfortable. Well, here I am.
Oh, thank God for that statement. Thank God for the guy from Google, because I was like, John, you were literally on my Mount Rushmore of people that I wanted on the podcast. So I was so glad that you came. But imagine me as well. I'm having to reach out and I'm having to sell and to convince you, to tell you why I'm doing it. And I do this most of the times. Let me say like 90% of the people I've spoken to on this podcast, I don't know from Adam. I find them, LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, go, tell them what I'm doing and things like that. Yeah. And I'll speak to them on the phone. And they've come here to my garage, a guy they don't know, sometimes they're a black guy, right? And they've ended up here, we've recorded, they've left, and some of them, the testimonials are brilliant, just the experience that they've had, because I understand the importance. If you're talking about representation, it is so important. Exactly. How you carry yourself, the things that you do, because where it will go, that will be your marketing. And if you do the opposite, then you will have an adverse effect. Do you get my point? So I can relate to that, because even with this, if I don't get comfortable with being uncomfortable, then there is no this. Because the majority of the people that I'm going to speak to are people that I don't know. Are people that I kind of have to get to know, read about, study on. And sometimes I'll even have this thing where I'm like, man, you know, even if I always do my research, I do my reading, but I'm like, do I have the depth for the conversation? And sometimes I'll be like, it'll be a little bit daunting, right? But I was like, do you know what? The conversation will take shape however it will. Let me do what I'll do, put my notes together, do a little bit of reading, and inspiration will take over. We'll take it from there. But it's not always that a situation is comfortable. It's just kind of going with the wind, and whatever will be, will be.
Exactly.
Do you get my point?
And honestly, since I've had that motto in my head,
things have been moving.
Just been so enhanced because I'm doing things I wouldn't normally do. I'm learning new things that I normally wouldn't do. So yeah, it's. I mean, I won't be as dramatic as to say it's changed my life, but it's definitely enhanced it.
It's enhanced it. I would say it has changed it a little bit as well. I was going to touch on this point, bro. You know, growing up, as we said, you're a third culture kid. I'm a third culture kid, and mom's nurses that were working all the time, you know, spent some time with my sister, but most times I spend time with like my friends that have now become like family. Like there's John Yu, there's John Cole, you know, KJs and the other guys. And I feel like these guys are now like, they're family, bro. And there's something again from what you described where it's like where we've left our families back home. We now come here and you have to figure out a whole new dynamic altogether. Do you find that yourself? Like, do you know the people that we were growing up to together? Do you see those people now as a family in a way, or how have they impacted your life and that sort of thing?
Absolutely, and you know, I'm still friends with probably most of them.
Yes.
So these are the people I've known from the Gate Crasher days.
Yes. The Alex, you know, Alex is just like Alex is like a cousin.
Exactly.
That's my boy for life. Same as John, same as Cajun, all of them. You know, yeah.
And like, I was, you know, because I was on holiday with Alex you know, just a couple of weeks ago.
Brilliant.
And I was showing him pictures of when we were on a different holiday.
Oh wow.
About 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And how young he looked and how young I looked.
There's some pictures from there. Yeah,
exactly,
bro.
Exactly. So these are guys I've pretty much known all my life. And yes, you know,
brilliant.
we're all in different, you know, cities now and we're doing different things. But, you know, we still have that network. And like even just tomorrow, you know, we're going to KJ's baby shower.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, it's just incredible because we've kept that network.
Yes.
So to your point, absolutely. These are like second families because,
absolutely.
You know, even if we live in different cities, you know, what
doing different things
for the major milestones in each in all of our lives. I was there at your wedding.
Absolutely. Right? Which was great to see you, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think what's important is having people around you that no matter what, even in time passes, they always stand up for each other. And I feel like we have a very good connectivity community and network of people that will always do that for each other. So I'm really grateful for that actually.
Absolutely. I am too, bro. And I was saying it's like somebody like Alex, I'll go times maybe I haven't spoken to him, but he'll always just reach out like, fam, we need to link up. Again,
exactly.
John Core, I just speak to him regularly, like regular. And again, we've got that sort of rapport, which is brilliant. And even as I grow in business and in everything that I'm doing, I was saying to you, I believe in value addition. So for any of the friends where I can add value, we can come together and do that. But as I said, it has to make sense. Like, it has to make sense on my part as well, or else I'll just be disturbing or wasting your time and what you're doing. So I don't believe in that whole, we have to support everything. I don't. I believe it has to make sense. If you're being of service, if it's something that you're, like now, we're adding value to each other. This makes sense. Do you get do you get my point? It's not really just like a random John New mask, you know, but that's what I believe in. But yeah, even with the friends that are doing different bits, I'd hope that as we grow in our respectful fields, we can always see to say, okay, is there a point of collaboration that perhaps makes sense, right? How can we add to each other? If it's there, great. If not, bro, I'll support you, or I'll follow your link, or I'll watch your thing, and you know, that'll be about it. But I was gonna say this at the end of it. I'm so proud of everyone, especially yourself, particularly today. It will be you. I'm really proud of, but even just the other guys and everything that they're doing in their own right and their journeys, just to see us all mature and grow, and to see us where we are as men, bruv. It's like almost bring me to a tear, just like how proud it makes me feel, you know.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I think the beauty of it is we've all gone down different paths.
Absolutely.
No two of us have
the same thing. Yes, which is brilliant.
And we're all successful in our own ways. We're all proud of each other. We're all there for each other.
Yes.
It's incredible.
Absolutely.
Incredible. And I don't think we spend enough
taken time
to actually reflect on that and really
which I
absorb
think
that, right? Which is really important.
which I think tomorrow might be one of those days where
Yeah.
people just kind of simmer and take it all in. Somebody like Marcus, he's doing amazingly. Obviously, I'm not going to touch on his story or anything, but he's just doing amazingly. Then you've got Chichi. I speak to him as well. These are guys I grew up with. He's also doing well in his own right with his food. Everyone is just doing something. If I missed anyone, guys, sorry. But I just say it's like, and people are hardworking. They are focused in their own respect. And I think for me personally, that's something that I've found inspirational. It's really inspired me. Do you get what I mean? Your story particularly, not only is it really encouraging me and inspiring me, I'm like, this is the kind of story that will go to encourage and inspire a multitude of people. That is what I really love about it. Yeah. Not just the fact that it's motivating me, but the fact that it has the possibility and potential to motivate really a number of people, and you can just see it from the outset.
Absolutely.
Do you get what
and I
mean?
think that's exactly the whole purpose of this. Like, we've all got to keep paying it forward.
Yes.
Right? We've got to think about the future generations. You know, they're looking to us for inspiration. They're looking to us for answers the same way we did from the people previous, and our parents and our siblings. Like, they inspired us to where we are today. So we've got to keep paying it forward. And I think that's why, in moments like this and your podcast and everything that is out there on social media, it plays such a huge part, because I feel like, and I was saying this to you earlier, it's all well and good telling the successes that we have accomplished in our lives. But, you know, we've got to understand that the people out there, they see the end product. They don't understand the journey.
The journey.
It's very, very important that we spend enough time to actually tell that story, because that story is actually what's going to inspire people.
Yes. The grit, the reality.
Exactly. Yeah. Because they need to understand that, you know, we didn't achieve all of this by chance.
Absolutely.
They need to understand that, you know,
very
they said
intentional
no to us 10 times before they said yes to us, and we stayed hungry.
Absolutely.
You know, we kept at it. And we didn't give up. We've got to help people understand that it's okay to
hear no.
First hurdle, or to hear no.
Yes.
You've got to keep going at it. I mean, I may be where I am today in EY, but you know,
it didn't just happen coincidentally.
And I haven't always been told yes. And, you know, although I've been promoted 3 times, you know, there were at least a couple of occasions where I wanted to get promoted and they said no to me. Right? But I didn't allow that to
deter
have a huge impact on me. I stayed at it. I kept working hard. I kept trying to demonstrate my abilities as a professional, and things will keep coming. So there's been other moments in life, as we all have, where somebody has said no to us or one door has shut. I think what's important is that you take that, you use that emotion and figure out a way to push through it.
Yes.
Because 10 people might say no to you. It's because they were not meant to say yes to you.
Absolutely.
You've got to find the
one
person.
Yes.
And that's what's going to accelerate everything. And then suddenly the 10 no's seem like absolutely nothing.
Absolutely. I say the 10 no's are not losses, they're lessons.
Spot on.
Right? There's a guy I spoke to here. He's a rapper, producer, like extraordinaire. Like the guy's just brilliant. And that's what he said about dealing with loss and dealing with no and being, he goes, you have to go through that experience and keep going. And it's interesting that you're saying what you're saying. It's just adding on, you know, to what he said, and he broke it down. It's like, fam, you are going to be told no, you will be rejected. Rejection is part of life, especially as men. You better get used to rejection, because we are the pursuers, right? Not me. But if you're going to be the pursuer, you have to get here, because even sometimes if you're pursuing, let's say, for example, a lady, she may tell you no a couple of times, right? Not in a harassing way or anything like that. But, you know, it might come to a point where she actually says yes because she appreciates the tenacity and that sort of thing.
Exactly. And I feel like these sort of moments help people understand that.
Yes.
And I think it's important that we all put out there a very balanced view of ourselves.
Yes.
Obviously, celebrities and the media puts out one version.
What they want you to see.
Exactly. But I feel like moments like this it's a reality check, which I think is very, very important.
Absolutely, brother. Very well put. So, speaking of the story and the journey, I wanted to dig a little bit into your university life before we jump into the work, because the work is a very important component about everything else and explaining where you are now. But uni, what was that process in you deciding to go to Sheffield Hallam University? I know that's where you went. I told you when I was applying for university, that's one of the schools that I considered, but I settled, for Leeds and that sort of thing. What was that process going to university? So for starters, that decision, and perhaps just the journey there.
Absolutely. I'm glad you actually brought that up, because I think it pivots nicely into what I was saying around, people will say no to you.
Okay.
A lot of times. So I'm going to take you back 2 years
Please
before that.
tell us the story.
Essentially, when I was in sixth form, as you know, most African children are told, you've got to be a doctor, you've got to be a nurse,
engineer, lawyer.
You've got to be an engineer, right? So,
yes.
I was no different. So when I was in sixth form, obviously you pick 4 subjects. Mine was maths, physics, chemistry, biology, right? All the hard stuff, right?
Yeah.
First year as sixth form, I failed so miserably.
No way. You failed.
I failed catastrophically, right? So much so, I can remember being sat by the head of sixth form, because usually they allow you, at least back then, they would allow you to retake.
To redo it. Okay.
But I failed so badly, the head of sixth form said, yeah, we could allow you to retake, but we're not going to do that, because you failed so badly that even if you improve, you're still going to fail. Right? Which, as a kid who is trying to impress the parents and, obviously show gratitude for the opportunity to come to the UK and, lead a different life.
Yeah.
It was traumatizing. I was thinking, what am I going to do?
And you're thinking mom is going to be pissed.
Exactly. Yes. So I had 2 options, right? I could either and quit sixth form and then go to college.
Okay.
Or the head of sixth form was like, or you could just choose a different subject altogether and we'll let you stay.
Really?
So I'm thinking,
that's the option.
I'm like, how am I gonna go home and tell my mom I'm quitting sixth form to go to college?
That's
that's not a nice story to tell anyone. So I accepted. You know what? I can even remember what I said to the head of sixth. I said, look, whatever subject you need me to do,
I'm going to do
I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I just need to stay right where I am. Right. Wow. And the only option that was available to me was IT. Right. Never really heard of IT before. Had no idea what it was. But that was the only option that kept me at Notre Dame sixth form.
See how good works,
right? And because of the composition of IT at the time, I didn't need to do 4.
Okay.
I could do 2, but it was equivalent to 4 because there were like so many different modules and stuff within it.
Okay.
So I took it. And that year, once I graduated, so did the full 2 years, I think I scored the highest ever score at that point in time for information technology at sixth form. It was crazy. I haven't gone
from
for it.
Failing.
From not even knowing what IT was or wanting to do it, right?
Bruv. Yeah.
It was at that point in time I thought, I guess I found my calling. Maybe I'm going to explore this a little bit more.
Absolutely.
So then obviously when it came to university, I knew I wanted to do something within that space.
Okay.
Wasn't going to go back to the whole science, palaver. And that's how I stumbled across business information systems, which is what I did. And I graduated I graduated with first class honors in business information systems. Yeah. But I chose to stay at Sheffield Hallam because, to be honest with you, I wanted to stay close to my mum.
Okay.
I was also thinking about the financial pressure it would put on her if I had to leave the city, because if I stayed in Sheffield, I can stay at home
and help
out
have to worry about home.
Accommodation, could help out at home.
Okay, that's brilliant.
My mom had sacrificed so much already that wasn't going to be another thing, so I stayed local. Okay, and Sheffield Hallam, is a great school. But also, I was really nervous about getting super distracted.
There you go.
I could go to Leeds, Manchester, you name it. I really wanted to focus. And bearing in mind, I had already stumbled once in the first year of sixth form.
So you're thinking, like, I'm not doing that again.
I'm not doing that again. Yes. I need to stay focused. I need to stay razor sharp, because what? If I graduate uni, I can get a good job. I can, my career can go on from there. So Sheffield just felt like it just made so much sense for all the reasons I said, between being there for my mom, thinking about the financial pressure, avoiding distractions, being close to my friends who, as I mentioned already, I've known since high school. It just made so much sense. So that's why I stayed.
Brilliant. It's yeah, go on.
Yeah, but I was just gonna finish by saying, but the interesting part to it is just how I started off with sciences, stumbled into something that I only did to stay at, in the sixth form I was in, to suddenly making a career out of it, and however many years later.
Oh, it was written. It was written. That is such a nugget, such a gem. This is why I do this, guys. Right? It was so written. It's like poetic how it came together. I was just going to add quickly to say the reason you stayed in Sheffield is the reason I left, because I felt staying at home would be too comfortable. Mom's there, my friends are there, and sometimes, partying. And I just thought, I'm not going to focus, I'm not going to concentrate and that sort of thing. I felt that I needed to experience some level of independence, right? Like being out there, seeing what the big bad world is all about and that sort of thing. And that's what made me move to Leeds. So for me, it worked out, because I was like, that's why I ended up doing what I did, because I felt like if I'd stayed, I'd have been distracted. But the opposite for you felt that if you leave, you'd have been. So exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, each decision that people make is individual.
Absolutely.
You can't compare and try and do something because somebody else is doing it.
And I think that, you hit the nail in the head. I think we all have to be comfortable with our identity.
Yes.
Of course, you can, and that's why I use the word inspire. Like, you can inspire others, you can influence them.
Yes.
Excuse me, but they're gonna have to look at your story and figure out which parts of it they want to emulate, and which part of it they want to use as a platform to build something different.
Yes.
I've never been a big fan of people just either wanting what other people want or just do a copy and paste. Like, that's not how life works. Like, we all have to own our own identity.
Absolutely.
And build on that and recognize that, again, success will look differently for everybody.
For everyone else, yes.
It's impossible. Like, there isn't a template. Like, just because of what I do doesn't make me any more successful than you.
Absolutely.
That is a known fact, right? So we're all successful in our own ways, and success is going to look different. It's going to feel different for everyone. And I think it's very, very important that we don't try to put a template or one size fits all around, because I think that's when people start to get really disillusioned, because they're thinking, well, if I don't have but then they're thinking, if I don't have this, then I'm not successful. Whereas that's not really the case.
Absolutely. And, with what you said there is, if you want what John's got, are you willing to put in the kind of work and the kind of madness and the kind of hard working and the kind of tenacity where you're saying you're getting comfortable with being uncomfortable? Are you ready to be comfortable with being? There's so many things that you might take, and your point of view and your mindset may be the very reason why you are where you are. And some people that just don't want that because they might think it's stress to them. So that means you might not be able to get that because that's just not the thing for you. But if you try and force it, you'll find that it can actually end up depressing your life.
Exactly.
Because you're not about that life.
Exactly.
Do you get what I mean?
And the lifestyle is very, very different. I mean, pre-COVID, I spent 300 days a year overseas.
Wow.
Which is a lot, right? And I did that for many years. And, it came at a huge personal cost and sacrifice, which I was comfortable with.
Okay.
And I don't look back at with any regrets, because it got me to where I am.
Exactly.
And it gave me everything I wanted. But, that is something that someone else could decide, actually, that's not what I want.
For them.
Which is okay.
Yes.
It's not for everyone. So that's why it's so important that everyone makes personal choices and personal decisions
that fit to what they're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, with that said, I'd love to jump into the career, obviously the progression, that sort of thing, but I think it segues perfectly with the uni bit. So we'll take it back a little bit to the uni bit. So foundationally, placement year is where your career sort of begins, isn't it? So tell us a little bit about that and how you scooped yourself that GSK place, because that's hot diamond. I know there's some people that were trying to even get the most basic placements, and that didn't work out for me personally. I wanted IBM, and then for whatever reason that just didn't come through and whatever. But then again, the pieces that fell together, I am where I am. And I'm thinking, if I was in the corporate world, perhaps I wouldn't be doing this. So everything happens for a reason. But coming back to you, bro, starting from placement, tell us a little bit about that journey and then how it ties into and transitions into the beginning of your career. Then obviously we'll go that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, I feel generally just blessed in life.
Wow,
Because
brilliant.
I've kind of found myself at the right place at the
right
time
time.
for
Yeah.
the last 20 years.
But bro, don't just say that
Yeah,
though. You
absolutely,
laugh.
absolutely.
You took the initial steps. If
yeah.
anyone is listening back to what John was saying, don't be fooled, right? Because this guy even said what he did and the steps, and you kind of retransitioned, refocused yourself. But then there's definitely a lot of equity that you put in. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know the reason I say that was because
Yeah.
I still remember how I even heard about GSK for the first
Okay.
time was because, there was an email that went out to say, because during the placements,
Yes.
a bunch of companies do a roadshow at different universities to
Okay.
tell them about the companies and just to get them to apply, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of companies want students to come in, future talent, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I can remember that there are so many of these emails going out. I would open it, read it, and then just ignore it.
Wow.
The GSK one was similar. I opened it, read it, ignored it. But I can remember my afternoon lectures for that day got cancelled because my teacher was ill.
Okay.
And I was going to go home. I can remember leaving to go home, but then I could see as I got outside the campus, a lot of people were coming in, and they were people with flyers and posters. And I was like, what's
are they
going on
doing?
here?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, didn't you get the email? GSK are here to do a lecture.
Oh wow.
And one of the teachers was like, well, if your lectures are cancelled, why don't you come to this? And
you're thinking, should I even go? This looks long.
The truth is, I wasn't even sure if I could say no to her. I don't know if, 'cause I'm just thinking maybe I should still be a uni, even though maybe I should be reading. So I just thought, well, I kind of have to say yes because I'm still technically on
uni time, right? Yes.
So yeah, sure, I'll just come in after
go.
some fresh air and bring back in.
Why not?
So I kind of felt like I got forced into the auditorium.
Wow.
So
there was just a force and energy that was like, I have to do this.
Exactly. So got in there,
yeah,
sat down, listened to them, and to be honest, I was kind of inspired because again, my mom is a nurse. My mom has been a nurse all her life, and she retired a nurse. So I've always been around the whole medicine and healthcare system. So
same here, yeah.
And GSK, I have to give them credit. Their marketing spiel was quite impressive because I kind of walked out of that auditorium feeling if I work for this company, even though I'm not in the R&D department or the person physically putting the pills into the bottle, whatever I do is going to contribute towards saving people's lives.
Wow.
That's how they made me feel.
So
right?
They sold you.
They
basically.
sold me 100% on the dream.
Yeah.
So I can remember walking out thinking, that's where I want to work.
Yeah.
And you know this about me, and a lot of my friends know this about me. When I want something, I am tunnel vision focused, and I'm going to do everything in my power to get it.
Wow, that's a different kind of thing. That's the thing. I was going to say, is there anything that they said that was particularly profound that kind of gave you the aha moment? Was it maybe to do with the culture, to do with the
honestly?
What was it?
I can't remember.
Oh, wow.
I can just remember how I felt coming out of that room, thinking
they definitely said something. Yeah,
yeah, they definitely did.
Yeah.
I just genuinely can't remember.
Okay,
but I can just remember coming out of that room feeling
I want to work for them.
I want to work for them because I feel like I will be contributing towards saving people's lives.
That's brilliant.
And then I went back to the email that I ignored initially. Obviously, it had the links in terms of how to apply. I can remember applying. Best, bio that I ever did. I really was focused on it, and I went through the process, to be honest, as everyone else did. You had to do 2 interviews. And I was lucky enough to get the job, and I was really, really pumped and really, really excited about it.
Yeah.
And my experience at GSK was fantastic because it was my first corporate work experience. Of course, I had student jobs in retail and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was the first time I had to wear a suit 5 days a week and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of felt like a grown up.
Wow.
And I really...
You were feeling like all this hard work, things are already shifting.
Exactly,
and this was before you'd even finished, you'd completed your degree.
Exactly, because obviously placement year is
brilliant.
the third year, and then you have to go back. So, and I kind of felt like, right, it's all coming together.
Yeah.
It's all coming together.
Yeah.
And the beauty about the placement at GSK was obviously 6 months into it, if they feel like you're the sort of person that they believe they could work with in the future,
they would just tell you.
They put you on a program that says, well, we're going to do a proper corporate style interview and assessment center.
Wow.
And if you get through that, essentially we will offer you a job
Yes.
on the condition that you go back to uni, graduate with a 2-1 or above, right?
Set you a condition.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it made the last 6 months of my placement very, very focused, because I'm like, right, I know that one, I need to smash the remaining 6 months.
Yeah.
Two, I need to get through the assessment center process because I want them to offer me. I mean, think about it. Imagine going back to uni knowing
that there's an
once you
option.
not even an option, there's a job, because essentially they give you the contract while you're in your final year. It's like, here's, on the condition, because obviously it's stipulated
That
in
is
there.
brilliant. Is the salary there as well?
Yeah.
Bro,
Because,
that is the best incentive to get a fist.
Exactly. So you can imagine, I don't think I partied a lot in my final year.
Forget that.
Right? I was like, laser sharp focus. I'm thinking I got the contract, and it's stipulated there the condition, as long as you get a 2-1 or above. And I'm thinking, this is real.
Yes.
Right? This is everything that I've been dreaming about for years. This is the reason
right there
my
on
mom
the plate
moved to the UK. This is the reason why every single sacrifice has led to that moment. So I'm thinking, this is it.
That's poetic, fam.
And if you think about how many people graduate with first class honors, but struggle to get a job after they graduate. Yeah. And I was so lucky that I had one.
The opportunity is right there. Yes.
So worked really hard. Got my first class, which I was really proud of.
In fact, let's not gloss over. Hold on a minute, John.
Don't ask me about my dissertation, because I have no idea.
No, I'm not going to ask about the dissertation, but I was going to ask you, okay, now you've broken it down perfectly. I don't even have to ask about it. Now you've got this and you're working hard and you're going into the final year. What was that like, the fire of now really tackling? Because now you're going at this with intention. Everything is there. It's yours to lose, basically. Exactly. Tell us a little bit about that experience of being in that final. Now, obviously, he got a first class degree, by the way. I was like, how did you do it? But then, what was that like? Just in brief, perhaps. Yeah.
I think if there's one word I'll use to describe it, it's pressure.
Pressure.
Yeah. Like, it's like you said.
Pressure makes diamonds.
True. But it's like you said, it was mine to lose.
Yes, it was yours to lose.
Because I had the contract.
Yeah.
I knew the condition. It was mine to lose.
Yeah.
So the pressure was extraordinary. But I think what mitigated me getting too overwhelmed by that pressure is what I said earlier, which is when I want something, I am tunnel vision, razor sharp focused.
Oh, wow.
And it's very easy for me to like cut out distractions. So that final year, although I felt the pressure, that I knew that I needed to get this.
Okay.
I owed it to my mom. I owed it to my family. I owed it to everybody that has sacrificed anything for me to get it. So I was like razor sharp focused,
bro. Yeah.
So yeah, it was pressure, but like, because I knew, to your point, it was mine to lose. I'm like, I'm not going to be like, I'd rather they rescind the offer, but I'm not going to be the reason why I don't make this jump. Just to circle back as well to the placement year, I think the other thing that was such an incredible experience was, it was my first time leaving Sheffield, right? So if you recall, I went straight to Sheffield from Nigeria, and I stayed in Sheffield. I did high school in Sheffield, sixth form in Sheffield, university in Sheffield. My mom was in Sheffield. Close friends were in Sheffield.
Developmental years and everything. You
exactly.
Coming into yourself. Yeah,
exactly. My mannerisms were Yorkshire, right? Yeah. So my placement year was sort of like my first real, move outside Sheffield to really see a city that is completely different, with a very different culture. More around the tourism, very, very diverse, a lot more diverse than Sheffield was back in the day. So it was a very, very interesting experience, which is what made me realize and made me actually want the GSK job even more, because it just opened my eyes to a different,
to something different, exposure.
Yeah, because back in the day, as naive as I was, I just thought, Sheffield, well, the rest of England is like Sheffield.
Nope.
It's not, right?
Very different.
So when I got to London and I saw something different, then I almost felt like I had just relocated from Nigeria again. So I felt like I was in a completely different world, because everything was so different.
Yes.
So yeah, and then the experience of like not living with my mom, being
there you go for that's partly why I left for you. I was like, I need to learn this experience.
Looking after myself, doing my own laundry,
paying bills, eating, eating.
Oh, good Lord,
is long, right? Cooking and all that kind of stuff.
Having structure, and I think, to be fair, it made me realize. I mean, so it's interesting what you said around the reasons why you left Sheffield. I'd probably say my placement year,
Mm-hmm.
it gave me a 1% regret
Okay.
of not leaving Sheffield, because like I
All
said,
right.
I felt like I would have been better equipped to handle everything life threw at me on my placement year if I didn't live in Sheffield for uni.
Okay.
Because my independence started on my placement year,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
Which, again, everybody's story is different. Like I said, it only gave me a 1% regret, only because I struggled just in terms of just settling for the first 3 months, because I wasn't used to living on my own. I wasn't used to paying bills and all that stuff. I mean, yes.
So you didn't know, because and our parents sometimes they don't tell us these things. They feel like when you're young, you're not privileged to it. They won't tell
take
you the
care of all of it.
struggles.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's such a good thing. Yeah, John. So as I was saying, sometimes our parents don't let us in as to what's going on in the household and that sort of thing. And I don't know if that's such a good thing, because when you're independent, as you're saying yourself, I don't know what it was like for you, but for me, it was learning everything by myself, and sometimes having to learn it the hard way.
Exactly.
Do you get what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I think, so I agree with you, but I think I kind of feel like that's our parents' generation. So if I look at my elder sisters, for instance, they're doing things a lot different.
Oh, that's good.
My nephews and nieces,
Yeah.
they are being introduced to and taught
Things
a lot of
early.
these things early on.
Yes.
Which I think is the better way to do it.
Absolutely,
I get
I
why
agree.
our parents did it, because they felt like it was their job to get us through to graduation, and then we fend for ourselves. But I think that it needs to be a hybrid.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that was probably the only point where I thought, maybe if I'd lived on my own or moved to a different city for uni, I'd be better equipped. But to be honest,
Yeah.
I genuinely wouldn't change anything. Hence why I
Yeah.
stick to 1%.
Absolutely. No, I hear you, bro. And your journey just sounds like it happened the way it was supposed to happen.
Exactly.
And sometimes, through the journey, we learn certain lessons. The things that seem terrible at the time are the things when you look back, I'm like, if I was in this particular situation, I probably wouldn't have been doing what I'm doing now. And I feel like I'm called. Even this podcasting that we're doing, sharing people's stories, inspiring other people, I literally feel called to it, bro. Exactly. Like I enjoy it. It's, as I said, I do a day job outside this, which is like 5 days. Yeah. And then on my little days off, I do this. So it's like intense, but it doesn't feel that way. When I'm doing everything and the editing, I enjoy it.
Exactly.
Genuinely, I love to do it. Hence why you say that even the cold calling, speaking to people, it doesn't feel like
exactly.
It shows me. I would do it over and over and over again, and I don't feel any kind of way about it because I genuinely love it and I genuinely enjoy it. So there's always, a reason as to why certain things happen, and I would say learn from them, hear the message that is going on in that moment, and then just go, with the journey.
Exactly.
But yeah,
I think that takes me kind of nicely into sort of like the next stage, because obviously I then landed at GSK after uni.
Okay, yes. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah,
feeling better prepared.
Okay.
After having a year placement, so I knew exactly what to expect.
Yes.
And I was put on an IT leadership program.
Okay.
So it's like a 3-year program where they expose you to different parts of the business, because they see you as a future leader within the business.
Brilliant.
So I was lucky enough to do that, which were 3 incredible years. But then off the back of that, I got headhunted into
there
UI.
you go. Yes.
And it was something as simple as somebody, reached out to me on LinkedIn to say, we have this opportunity which we're looking to fill. Are you interested?
Wait, how did they discover you exactly? How did they know about you?
I would assume
they just found you.
Yeah. But I would assume there'll be some. So my assumption was there's probably some algorithms.
Do you reckon
that these researchers have access to on LinkedIn that'll basically say, show me people with this skill set, or show me people that have held this kind of jobs, and they'll probably just give them a list, and then they'll just have a template email that they'll just reach out to a bunch of people. That is my assumption.
Brother, you're assuming a lot, because this is just like Ernst Young is like one of those companies where it's like everyone knows them instantaneously, similar to IBM and these big Deloitte.
Absolutely.
For them to headhunt you, people will beg to go to them. They came to you.
But the interesting part is I didn't even know who or what Ernst Young was until I got approached by LinkedIn.
Wow.
And then I did some research. I'm like, what the hell did they want from me?
Really?
Because I was looking at what they did in terms of the types of jobs they offer and the services they offer clients. I'm like, I have no experience in any of that.
In any of oh wow.
And then the particular service offering or the
Yes.
particular departments that they wanted me to go into, I'm like, I definitely
Don't know
have
anything about what you're
zero
talking
knowledge
about.
that, right? I didn't even know what it meant. So like,
Why are you even here?
transaction advisory services, mergers and acquisitions. I'm like, what is all this English? I don't get it, right?
Do you know how my brain works? The minute I see that, I'm like, okay, there's no point. That's how I think. I'll be like, let's just forget it.
So I genuinely thought, like, am I being pumped? Like, what do they want from me? And
Yeah.
I entertained the conversation because
As you do, because you're you, basically.
exactly.
That's why.
And I was curious, but also to be completely transparent.
Yes.
When I heard what the salary potential was, I was like,
Then that
yep,
got your
right?
interest.
It piqued my interest
There
quite a
you
bit.
go. Yes.
Because I was also thinking about, obviously building a career, but also building a life. And I wanted to get
Absolutely.
a mortgage, I wanted to buy a property.
Absolutely,
And all that
yes.
stuff. I'm thinking, if somebody's willing to double my salary overnight, why would I
We'll
say
figure
no?
the job
Right?
out later.
We'll figure it out.
It'll work out.
I'm a good learner. I'm a sponge. I'll just learn it. It's all
There
good.
you go. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. The salary potential definitely made me get my usual tunnel vision right. I want this job.
Brilliant.
I want this job. I want this job. I want this job.
Yes.
So went through the interview processes. I was lucky enough to get the job.
Brilliant.
I mean, my first, and I've told a few people this already. Within EY, my first probably 6-7 months in EY was probably the worst of my career.
What?
Because I guess I knew it was going to be hard.
But you didn't
didn't
know
realize
how
just
hard it
how
was
hard.
going to be.
And like I said, I didn't know anything about the industry beforehand. Oh, wow. So I was trying to learn on the go while also trying to deliver tangible benefits at ridiculous pace. And
Were you regretting? I think, why did I leave GSK?
I pretty
Can
much,
I go back?
I think month 2 or month 3, I called my former boss at GSK saying, would you take me back? It was that bad.
Oh, wow.
It was, I genuinely thought.
Yeah.
And again, so I'm just gonna pivot back to what I said about, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and recognize that people will say no to you several times. Because at that point in time, one of the reasons I called my former boss at GSK to ask if they'd rehire me was because I genuinely thought I was gonna get fired. I was that bad at my job. Right?
And I'll tell you this before you even continue. Those kind of periods, you have to go through them.
Yeah.
There is no way around it.
Exactly.
You just have to endure. Yeah. So I'm glad where the story goes, but then I'm very interested to hear the process. But I'm realizing there are certain periods where it will be very rough, but that's because you're supposed to go through the grit to get to the smooth.
But to
bit.
be honest,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, right? I mean, I called my former boss because I was ready to quit.
I hear you.
Let's be honest, right? I did that because I was like, you know what? I'm not
This is not
doing
going to work
This
out.
is not going to work out.
Yes, I hear
was
you.
ready to give up.
Yeah.
And this is going to sound really strange, but the luckiest thing that ever happened to me was that they had already filled my job.
Oh, wow.
So I was,
you can't
I was
even
stuck.
go back. So you have to make it work.
I had to make it work.
You got
right?
bills.
At that point in time, I was like,
you're
right.
living a certain lifestyle.
Exactly.
Yeah, bro.
And because I felt like I had a way out, I could always go back to GSK because they told me I could always come back, right?
But
obviously
then
everybody
after-
says that.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to say.
Exactly.
You've
But then-
left us and you think we're just going to take you back like that.
And then like they filled my
Nah,
job. So
bro.
it was then I realized, right, okay, you're in it.
Yeah.
You're going to have to figure it out. And I'm like, you know what? This is going to be uncomfortable, but I need to figure this out. I cannot get fired.
I
I've
don't
got bills
have a
to pay.
choice.
I don't have a choice.
Yes.
And I just kept my head down, worked hard, and things just, and I think because I had a change in mentality and I was suddenly willing to work a little harder, learn a little quicker, and just do a little more. Like it was even little things like whenever I'd be on a new project, I'd wake up at like 5 every morning, even though technically the working doesn't start till 9. I'll wake up at 5. So I have 4 hours of me doing research about what I need to do that day.
So it's encouraging you to reshift.
Exactly, because I didn't want every day to feel like a fire drill where I'm being thrown into the deep end and I'm like trying to learn.
You don't know what you're doing.
Literally every single day, I was waking up at 5 a.m.
Wow.
to
That's
read
serious.
emails, read old presentations, do my research, try and figure out my day job, right? And it worked. It worked because again, I wasn't like competent overnight, but it just
took
meant that
time.
it just built my confidence because
Absolutely.
then suddenly when I was going into conversation, somebody was
know
saying
what
to
they're
me,
saying.
that's a good idea. I'm like, did I just have a good idea? What is this?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
and then honestly, like
Yeah.
your confidence starts to grow.
Yes.
And then before you know what's happening,
Yeah.
you're speaking the language. even because I invested a lot of hours in just offline learning, it just clicked.
They say it takes about 10,000 hours before you are an expert at something.
Exactly.
About 10,000. Exactly. And I was going to add, before you even continue, it reminds me of a story. I think it's the Spartans. What they used to do when they go to war, apparently they used to, I don't know if it's the Spartans, but they would burn their boats. Once they've crossed the river, they'll burn their boats and they would say, we either win this war or we die, because there's nowhere home. So the situation that you're telling me going into the thing, that's how it sounds. Is because, you know, GSK was your boat. That's now been, that means you have to make it work. And I feel like sometimes you need that.
Exactly. And you know, I learned so much in terms of like, just never give up.
Yes, right? Absolutely.
And even till today, like even your reaction when I told you, right? When I tell people how I struggled and how I
didn't know that. I'm just hearing all the good stuff about John, and I was doing great.
Exactly. But people look at me and be like, impossible. Because you know, I have, like I said, I've been promoted 3 times.
Yes.
On partner track, and like I said in my bio to you, hopefully the next time we have to sit down and have this conversation,
there'll
I'll
be
have
something
a
else
title,
to speak about.
You know, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But to think that only less than 10 years ago, I thought I was going to get fired from the job I then became very good at, and now I'm on track to become partner. It's But again, all people will hear is
you're on track to become partner.
Exactly. But like
you were GSK, you went to Ernst Young, and you're just ascending.
Exactly.
That's the only bits that they want to hear about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, my trajectory hasn't been like this. My trajectory has been like this. Right? And again, that is okay and that is normal. I think the one thing that I do worry is not the right word. The one thing I do think about sometimes is, imagine if my job at GSK was still there and they rehired me.
Then you wouldn't be on this trajectory where you are. You might have ended up stuck in that one position.
And like, if I think about everything that I've learned at EY, like I said, I'm extremely proud about everything we do. I'm extremely proud about the culture.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't want to work anywhere else, because I feel like I'm getting, it's a two-way relationship.
Absolutely.
You know, I am giving, but I'm getting so much. Yes. But I also believe in what we're trying to do.
Yes.
And when I see young people come to me, I want to talk to me about their journey, want to learn about my story, I just feel like I'm in a very, very good place.
Brilliant.
And if I think about everything I'm getting from my current situation, I think I almost gave that up 9.5 years ago.
Yes.
Like, I'm sure I'd have had a great career if I went back to GSK, but
it wouldn't be anything as to this, what you're doing. And I literally, bro, I feel like just God paved this way for you. He called you to this. And from the way you're describing your story, I feel like we're not done yet.
No.
Even the partner, that's just one aspect of it, but there's greatness to come here, right? Like
exactly.
This platform, even the people that I've spoken to, some of them are at the early stages of whatever they're doing, but when I hear and I listen to their journeys, I can just sense, I already know, like, these people, I'll be speaking to them in 10 years time, and they will be in completely different spheres. That feeling, I've gotten it more than once on this platform. I'm feeling it again today. This is, I don't know where you're going to go or what you're going to do, whether you're going to be with the same company, but I just feel like there's something else coming that's even greater than what you've prepared for. I'll put that on your life. Perhaps you already have a sense of it or you know it. And that's the sense that I got coming into this conversation to speak to you. I feel like, man, this guy, there's just something prepared there for him that's just brewing, and it will make sense based on just the way you carry your life and the trajectory and the fact that you take care of the smaller things. When the big thing comes, it's not a thing that I feel like you even be looking for. Exactly. It will find you once again, just like every other bit has found you.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And you're right. I'm not done yet. In fact,
absolutely. You're beginning.
Started.
Absolutely.
But that's why I said to you earlier that I feel like the luckiest person in the world, because I feel like I've just been, so that's like, now my life has just been a series of just literally being in the right place at the right time.
That's brilliant, bro.
And just, like I said, I could think about all the what ifs, right? What if GSK still had my job? What if I left EY? What if? But when I look at the other side of it, it just, I'm just so grateful.
Absolutely.
And which is why I'm trying to invest a lot of time to, like I said, pay it forward.
Okay.
And really invest in other people and, whatever I can do to help other people get to wherever they want to get to.
Yes, which is great, bro. That's noble.
But also to put my story out there because, like I said, people look at me and all they see is the success, but they really need to understand that, this wasn't made overnight and this is still a work in progress.
Absolutely. And there's been a lot of work that's gone into it as well.
Yeah, and a lot of work that will continue to go into it.
Yeah.
Like I said, achieving partner in EY is not my end goal. I'm not going to be done. I just want to continue to give back. I want to continue to just inspire other people the same as I was inspired.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask you, with the role that you're currently doing at the moment, obviously we briefly touched on it earlier on, internal ambassador, driving diversity, equality and inclusivity. If you can talk us through a little bit about what the role entails and that sort of thing, perhaps just briefly. Yeah.
So it's not a formal role.
Okay.
So it's an agenda we have.
Oh, right.
Within EY, which we all have to take a leading role, especially when you get to like associate director, director and above.
Yeah.
We are all role models. And we all have to role model those behaviors. And it's really all about how do we make sure that diversity is at the forefront of everything we do.
Brilliant.
How do we build diverse teams to get the best out of the work we do, but also to put forward the most diverse, and, brilliant set of minds to our clients. How do we make sure equality is at the center of the decisions we make? Whether it's around promotions, reward, whatever it is, but how do we make sure that, we're having an equitable outcome and an equitable representation of talent, right?
Yeah.
Because, we are a very, very diverse world. So how do we make sure that is represented at all levels, at all grades, at all conversations?
Wow.
And inclusivity is really about, we're all different. Some of us are introverts, some of us are extroverts.
Exactly.
A lot of us come with, hidden disabilities that, may not be at the forefront and people don't know about. So how do we respect each other? And how do we make sure that we're modeling inclusive behaviors to make sure that no matter people's backgrounds, where they've come from, how they're feeling, their internal disabilities, they don't feel being left out. So to my point earlier about, if you're seeing someone who is an introvert, who is quiet in the corner, how do you make sure that without making them feel uncomfortable, that if they have a point of view, how do you make them feel comfortable enough to want to share it, right?
Yeah.
So this is part of our agenda. And my role in that is I model that in my teams. I model that to my clients. So a lot of the teams that I lead and manage, I'm responsible for assembling those teams. So it's like, how do I make sure if I'm assembling a team of 10, how do I make sure there's equitable representation across the team, whether it's gender, whether it's race, whether it's ethnicity, whatever it is. How do I make them feel welcomed? How do I make them feel comfortable? How do I make them feel like they matter? How do I listen and make sure that they're getting everything they want to get out of the project?
Absolutely.
How do I get to know them in a way that I can make sure that they feel included? Right?
Okay.
Because again, if you do that, you pay it forward, they learn from you, they pay it forward, the world is a better place, right?
Absolutely. I couldn't have put it better than you did, brother. We could sit here and just go for hours and speak. And this conversation has been smoother than I thought or expected. Not that I had any specific thought or anything like that. And it's given so much. Again, it was just like, I'm sitting down with John, I'm going to be speaking to you and hearing, and there's just so much that it's just inspiration has taken over. And it's absolutely brilliant, bro. I've loved it. Obviously, we'll be coming to the end. I want to ask a little bit about just yourself in general, some of the bits I've seen you've been doing, working out, you're into your fitness, and some of the other maybe little things that you do outside work. We'll touch on that briefly. But what I wanted to ask you as we draw to an end on the career aspect of it is, what advice would you give a young person, perhaps again, to keep that brief, who isn't perhaps in a situation where you were, where you felt that you failed your sixth form and it's the end of the road. Sometimes you feel it's the end of the road, there's no going back, or mom, how are they going to feel? I've been there as well. Like I dropped out of college. Like I didn't tell my mother we're working. So I had to go back to college to redo it. And then when I went back, I smashed it. That's how I ended up going to university. So it's not too dissimilar to yourself. It's like, damn, I should have applied to a red brick university because I actually had the grades when I did it. But anyway, my point is, what advice would you have to a young person in that sort of situation, knowing what you know now?
Honestly, it'll be two things. Just stay true to yourself and don't give up.
Absolutely.
Like, I think we touched on it earlier, which is people inspire to be like others.
Yeah.
And that is a very dangerous ground
thing to have, because you,
right?
Expectations.
So just be true to yourself, and whatever you aspire to be, whatever you dream of, don't give up.
Yeah, absolutely. So well put and so concise. Yes. Now into the man. Is there anything else you've got going on at the moment that you're doing in terms of projects or anything like that? That's outside work, or anything like that?
Project wise, not really. To be honest, I'm just trying to get back to just myself.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, we've all had a very difficult 2.5 years with the pandemic. Being on lockdown for 2.5 years, not being able to necessarily do the things we love.
Yeah.
So I think for me this year is really about going back to doing the things I love, which is traveling.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah, the aspect of it.
Exactly. So I've
travel,
been on a few holidays. I'd like to go on a few more. Going back to fitness, I have a very demanding personal trainer girlfriend who keeps me in shape.
Oh, that's your girlfriend as well. Your personal trainer. That is great, brother. Yeah.
And again, it's something she loves doing. It's something that I
enjoy
doing.
as well.
Now I
that's
found
brilliant,
a new passion for it because I see how excited she gets about it. So it's kind of like a win-win.
Yes.
So it's something I'm focusing on as well.
Yeah.
And swimming, just getting back to swimming. It's something that I've always wanted to do and really build my abilities in. So I think this year is really just focused on getting back to just doing the things I love.
Yes.
And then we'll see what comes next.
Absolutely, brother. Final question: what would most people be surprised to know about you? I even mentioned a couple of things actually, but I'll still ask it. What would they be surprised?
It would be those things. Like I said, I mean, maybe I'm good at like coming across as very calm, assured, successful. So when I tell people about my failures in life, they're like, "What?
What do you mean?"
I don't believe that.
But it makes you human, though. That's what I love about it. He says, if you can go through that and you are where you are, it's okay to fail. It's okay if things don't work out, but it's not okay to stay there.
Exactly.
It's not okay not to do anything about it. It's not okay not to learn from it. So that's absolutely brilliant, brother.
Absolutely.
And I mean, to be honest, we've come to the end, but I'm just thinking like, damn, bro, like you've given us so much in this interview. Did you have anything? Not interview, podcast. Did you have anything final that you'd like to add just before we unwind?
No, not at all. Just a thank you, really. Yeah. I mean, like I said, what you're doing is incredible.
Brilliant.
I think platforms like this, and people like you, I think what you're putting out there is really, really important to help people really get a good sense of what reality is.
Yes.
Which is why I was excited and nervous to come on this because
nervous.
I feel like
I was too.
I feel nervous as well.
There you go. I always feel nervous when I'm doing it, especially when it shows that you value it.
Exactly. So I think what you're doing is really important. So I'm really glad and proud to be part of it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I was gonna say, brother, listen, you've come. This has been its own podcast, different from anything that I've done, and that's what I love about each individual. I like them to just be themselves and what they will be. Like, it's just so amazing. Your own individual journey is given, right? To me personally, I feel like every person that comes on speaks to me in different ways. It's interesting, bro. Yeah. Like, there's a bit of me you've healed today, and I don't think you understand, especially the school bit that you say. There's some stuff that you said, you really spoke to me. And there've been people that have come in and have said, you're speaking to me, because they're just certain aspects, and there's so many different variations of myself where it's like, fam, this just gives, and it's been so brilliant. And I know there'll be somebody else that's listening or watching as well that will feel that way. You've come, you've been honest, you've been authentic, which is another thing. Sometimes it's not easy to really be honest about your journey. Some people, sometimes they want to keep those sides of them to themselves and only show you the good side. So people have a misguided view of what it means to be successful, and that's not the truth. But what I'm so thankful about this platform is that almost every single person that has come on here has come and they've been completely honest, about their journey and that sort of thing. So I want to say thank you so much for coming today, John. And I am so proud of you, brother, of everything that you're doing as a friend, as a brother. Do you get what I mean? And continue to do what you're doing, your success and your humility and your service as well. The fact that you want to give back, that's just so brilliant, something inspirational, something to be proud of. Carry on your journey. I'll be there watching and pushing out the message that is John. As I said, you're welcome to come back on this platform whenever you've got something that you need to do. I always say this to people when the book comes out. And as I say, just as you said, perhaps when you come back, you'll be in a different place. It will most certainly be the same for me here. Like the production value and things will perhaps have been upgraded and things like that slowly. And it'll be a completely different experience in itself, you know,
Absolutely.
when you come back. But for today, thank you so much, John. It's been another episode of Let Inspiration Take Over, guys. Wow, right? If you haven't already, make sure you follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube. Something special brewing that's coming very soon that I've been working on. Our site, letinspirationtakeover.me. Say that again, letinspirationtakeover.me will be coming out very soon. We'll have all our content. We'll have the bios and the stories of the guests, as well as other inspirational bits and that sort of thing. But guys, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Take care.